What's happening, everybody? Ryan Thomas here, live on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Another edition, another episode, another day in the COVID-19 pandemic crisis that we are living in. This is a very rare, very unique day and age that we are living in, and it is safe to say, while most people are quarantined, most people are stuck at home, I guess you could say, I still have to carry on. I still have to go to work every morning due to the fact that my job requires me to be an essential employee in an essential business. So there you have it. You know, I've been going to work every day. It has been a ghost town in my town, waking up every morning, getting to work, trying to get there on time. I'm one of those people that I try to get there on time as best as I can. And in this day and age, it's pretty easy to do that, being that the roads are completely empty. Nobody's out. Very few industries are still working. And everybody out there that is struggling through this time, my job is to entertain. My job is to keep everybody composed, entertained, calm, cool, and collected so that they can enjoy the rest of their day and carry on. Use my podcast as a way to take up time in their long day, because the days where you know you're stuck in your house are pretty long, whether it's a snowstorm or anything like this. We've never experienced anything quite like this in our lifetimes. I know I haven't. I know my mother hasn't. I know my grandmother hasn't. So this is very tough. And everybody out there, I'm speaking to you specifically saying, hang in there. Everything will be all right. We just got to be patient, and we'll get through this together one day at a time. So that being said, I have greatly enjoyed this NFL free agency period. I've been very active on the social media networks, Facebook as always, Twitter as always, and I really like to let my thoughts be known and let my thoughts be seen and heard, as you guys know, on this podcast, as well as my social media accounts. And the Buffalo Bills organization put together an awesome video where my tweet was one of the tweets among Ian Rappaport, Dan Orlovsky, and more. As far as analysts that have analyzed these moves that the Bills have made, my tweet was pulled by the Buffalo Bills organization in terms of A.J. Klein. And the tweet read something to the effect that I was very happy with the A.J. Klein signing that the Bills made, that he is a finisher, he's a hardworking player, he'll bring out the best of his teammates during the dog days of training camp, and he wore that C well. And I want to send a shout-out to the Buffalo Bills organization for posting that tweet. I thank them greatly for featuring my tweet in that video. It made my day, and it made my month, due to the fact that this month has been one of the most mind-numbing months in recent memory due to the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. So thank you to the Buffalo Bills. I know that they are tuning into my Twitter, and I'm greatly appreciating it. I'm loving every minute of it. If they're tuning into my Twitter, maybe, just maybe, they love me as much as I love them. Maybe. I doubt it. I love me some Buffalo Bills. It's a franchise I've rooted for since birth. And that is the franchise that I will continue to root for till my last breath. As well, I will continue to cover this franchise within the Thomas Take Sports Podcast and within other platforms that I'll be starting very soon. So keep your eyes out open for that. As well, in this situation, I have to dive into the subject matter at hand. As I hinted, there has been a lot of movement in the NFL free agency period. A lot of positions going to and from, players going to and from, I should say. The quarterback market is always the most interesting to me because it is the most interesting position in the sport. It's the most important position in the sport. It's the most important backup position in the sport. If your quarterback goes down, you want to have that quarterback too that can come in, and really you ask yourself, and as I've asked myself, I will ask you, the audience, if Josh Allen went down for the Buffalo Bills and Matt Barkley stepped in with the ones, with the Stephon Diggs of the world, newly minted, newly acquired receiver of the Buffalo Bills. John Brown, he's healthy. Cole Beasley, he's healthy. Offensive line. So everyone's healthy on this offense. All right, everyone's healthy. Let's just say that. And Josh Allen, God forbid, goes down. Can Matt Barkley win 2 out of 4 games? Can Matt Barkley win more than that? Can he win 3 out of 6 games? 4 out of 7 games? 5 out of 8 games? What can Barkley do? And I think that there's a huge question mark next to that. As I look at the roster and try to avoid picking obvious needs that this team might still have, like some depth on the offensive line, like some depth at running back, like some depth in the secondary, in particular safety, because they do have good corner depth. I look at the quarterback position, I really have question marks about Matt Barkley. He played really well a couple years back, stepping in, filling in against the New York Jets, but that was against the Todd Bowles New York Jets. Ultimately, Bowles was fired at the end of the season. Stepped in for Josh Allen when Allen went down in the Week 4 battle against the New England Patriots and didn't really show too much out there against New England, albeit against one of the best defenses, maybe the best defense in the league currently in the Patriots. But those are the moments where a quarterback that comes in for the starter needs to shine. Those are those moments, and Barkley didn't really do that. Then you have the grand finale to end the season. He is playing with 2s and he is playing with 3s, but he's playing with a Jets team that isn't really that great, albeit he's going up against their starters. And Barkley didn't do too well. So, it's a glass half full thing with Matt Barkley. I don't think we know the answer as to whether or not Matt Barkley is the right QB2 or the wrong QB2. My retort to this is that I don't want to have to find out. I hope Josh Allen stays healthy, and I hope I never see Matt Barkley step out onto the field for the Buffalo Bills. And I say that because I have doubt as to whether or not Matt Barkley could be that backup. Hopefully we don't have to find out. But that fear of wondering if we don't have to find out is a bad fear to have if you're a NFL franchise. As I said, the quarterback position is the most important position in the league. At backup, the quarterback position is the most important as well. A great backup can make or break your season. Just ask the St. Louis Rams. The then St. Louis Rams, Trent Green goes down. A guy by the name of Kurt Warner steps in, and they go on an unprecedented greatest show on turf Super Bowl run. Now, every case is not like this. Of course not. But ask Drew Bledsoe. Drew Bledsoe goes down. Tom Brady steps in, goes on the greatest run that any quarterback has ever had. Now, I'm somewhere in the in-between. Obviously, I'm just comparing. I'm just throwing these situations out there. But there have been backups along the way that have been productive. Nick Foles, that's another one. Frank Reich was a productive one in Buffalo Bills history. I think the Buffalo Bills have a need there at quarterback in terms of the quarterback 2. And I think Josh Allen would greatly benefit from having that guy that he could lean on. Matt Barkley, I don't know if he's that guy. Matt Barkley has been a journeyman quarterback. He's bounced around team to team. I think if they had that guy that has started consistent games within his NFL career, albeit even years upon years of starting experience, I think that would be huge for Josh Allen. The one guy that comes to mind is Andy Dalton. Now, the situation with Dalton is very unique. Am I saying that I would be interested in the Buffalo Bills bringing him in? Of course. But right now, Dalton's situation is up in the air as to whether or not the Bengals are going to let him go, or I'm assuming that they are going to let him go. He's listed right now still as the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals and is due a massive bonus, if you will, over the next coming weeks, months. Now, he is available via trade. What it would cost to get him is probably too rich for the Bills. If he was cut, then we would have a different topic for a different day, and I would definitely say, go after him. Bring this guy in, He helped Buffalo in so many ways. Buffalo helped him in so many ways. It would be a really great story. But let's just take the Buffalo Bills stuff aside. Let's just push that to the left and say, what team should go after this guy? I mean, you have a slate of teams in early March that could have easily gone after this guy via trade, but they're waiting for the Bengals to cut him, and then they'll probably go after him, and they'll be an arms race for this guy. Because really, Andy Dalton is not a bad quarterback. He is a average quarterback. He's not bad, but he's not great. He's fair. He's okay. There's moments where he can be really, really good, and there's moments where he's not so great. But then, not so great. You're judging it based off of the situation that he was in, hopefully. Judging it off the situation that he was in Cincinnati, where you have a dwindling offense and not really much in terms of head coaching direction for a few years of Marvin Lewis. They were a pretty stagnant operation in Cincinnati. So the idea that Andy Dalton is this bust and that he can't be a quarterback that can come in and essentially help a team, I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's right. Ask yourself this. Would you take Andy Dalton or Marcus Mariota? I'd take Andy Dalton. Ask yourself this. If the money made sense, the dollars and cents made sense, who would you rather have, Ryan Fitzpatrick or Andy Dalton? I'd rather have Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's a little bit younger. I think he's got a little bit more left in him athletically than Fitz does. I think that's safe to say. But the Indianapolis Colts, they went out, they signed Phillip Rivers. There's a connection there that was pretty obvious that they were going to go out and get Phillip Rivers. Frank Reich and him are spaghetti and meatballs, for crying out loud. But the one team now that has a glaring hole at quarterback is the New England Patriots. Patriots have Jarrett Stidham and Cody Kessler as the quarterbacks on this roster. That's a problem. The AFC East is getting better. Buffalo is the front runner, and rightfully so. You take any bias out of that opinion, and I'll hit you with some truth. The Jets are a mess. They hired a coach that was fired by a division rival. That said coach is a disaster. The Miami Dolphins have spent so much money on so few players. They also have 4 first-round draft choices. They're going to be spending money completely mismanaging the cap in terms of the money that they've spent this free agency. As well, they have 4 first-round draft choices. Yeah, those 4 first-round draft choices will be on rookie, newish CBA contracts, and they'll be pretty inexpensive. You better take some skill positions at those with those picks. You better get a quarterback out of that. You better. Because the quarterbacks you have now, Fitz is not a long-term option. He's a short-term solution. And Josh Rosen, what the hell has that guy done to prove to any team that he's legitimate? Couldn't prove it in Arizona. Couldn't prove it in Miami yet. And I'm sorry to the people out there that still think that Josh Rosen might end up being somebody. But whether or not the situation was conducive to Rosen or not, he had 2 shots and he didn't make it happen. All it takes is one shot, one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted, one moment. Do you capture it or do you let it slip? And Josh Rosen has let it slip. So enough with that. I'm not even looking at that. Maybe later on he'll do something, but as of now, I'm not seeing it in Miami. Andy Dalton has played in playoff games. Andy Dalton has won some big games. I think that this guy should be in higher demand than what he is. But it is what it is. If the Patriots are really serious, if they want to move on from Tom Brady, they can't move on from Tom Brady with some young quarterback that nobody knows about. They moved on from Drew Bledsoe with a young quarterback that nobody knew about But that one quarterback that nobody knew about was a 1 in a million quarterback. Jarrett Stidham, I have doubts as to whether Jarrett Stidham is the next Tom Brady. I think if you want to remain relevant, if you're New England, if you want to stay within the arms race of the AFC East, which Buffalo, I think, on paper has a stranglehold of, but if you want to weaken that grip that Buffalo has on paper to take the AFC East, you bring in a quarterback that's won some big games. You bring in a quarterback that started some games, started some seasons for an NFL franchise, not just some young kid that is tasked with replacing Tom Brady. You need to bring in a vet. You need to bring in a guy that's worn the C on his jersey, and Andy Dalton has done that. Now, do I wholeheartedly care what the New England Patriots do to replace Tom Brady? No, I don't. Do I hope that they fail in replacing Tom Brady? 100%. But I'm looking at this as a football analyst, if you will. I'm looking at this from an analytical perspective. If the cost is not that much, if it's a mid-round pick, I mean, Cincinnati has to be begging to get a trade going for Andy Dalton. Got to be begging for it. They don't want that cap hit. What team could take this guy on? I mean, Miami has spent a lot of money. New England is kind of up in the air with their cap situation, but Andy Dalton's got to go to a team that needs him. And if it isn't New England, it sure as hell should be the LA Chargers. Reports are circulating and have been circulating that the LA Chargers head coach Anthony Lynn is highly interested in Tyrod Taylor taking the reins. They were left to be taken upon the release of longtime franchise quarterback Phillip Rivers. First off, what an insult to Phillip Rivers to just let this guy go and to say, thanks but no thanks, we're going to roll with Tyrod Taylor. What an insult. I know Tyrod put together some mistake-free seasons with the Buffalo Bills, but he also didn't put together solid touchdown seasons with the Buffalo Bills. With the anti-turnover stance that Tyrod takes as a quarterback, there's very few big play moments. Without that guy that's the gunslinger in Phillip Rivers, without the red rifle that is Andy Dalton, with a conservative check-down quarterback that is not willing to stretch the field at all, the LA Chargers better seal the deal at 6-10 or 7-9. I'm not even including the fact that they just let Melvin Gordon go to a division rival in the Denver Broncos. Go out and get Andy Dalton. Go out and trade a mid-round pick for Andy Dalton. I am a little bit shocked by this. And I'm not saying that Andy Dalton is Peyton Manning. By no means is Andy Dalton even close to elite. But he's better than Tyrod Taylor. He's better than Marcus Mariota. He could very well be better than Phillip Rivers. And I love Phillip Rivers, but Phillip Rivers is getting older. He's been very turnover prone. But I think the main reason that Rivers got signed and Andy Dalton is still on the trade block is that Rivers and Frank Reich have a really tight relationship, and I think Reich will do well with Rivers in this situation. Miami should be of interest, but for whatever reason they're not. The Bucs, they're not getting them. They just spent $25 to $30 million on a quarterback that is 43 years old. If the Washington Redskins were smart, which I think they are smarter now that they have Ron Rivera running the show, they would go after Andy Dalton, not Jameis Winston. How and why is Jameis Winston getting more love as a free agent than Dalton is as a trade piece? Well, I just answered my own question, and I did that on purpose. Jameis Winston is a free agent. Andy Dalton is a trade piece. So you got to trade something away for Andy Dalton. You can sign Jameis Winston to a free agent contract. But I'm sorry, I'd rather trade something for Andy Dalton, the mid-round pick, 5th or 4th, at best 5th or 6th, for Andy Dalton than going out and trading for Jameis, or going out and signing Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston had one of the most god-awful seasons I've ever seen as a quarterback. Granted, he threw for over 5,000, threw for 30 touchdowns. He also threw for 30 interceptions. He had the LASIK eye surgery as soon as the season was over and said, wow, I can see a lot better. Well, I hope that that's all it was, because that was really bad. You had Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. You had some pieces. Not much of a running game, which is why I think they throw so much. And shout out to Tampa Bay. They need to do a better job building out that running game, especially now that you have 43-year-old Tom Brady firing footballs there down in Tampa, down in Clearwater. So, Andy Dalton, an unappreciated player in this quarterback market that I want to highlight, that I want to bring attention to. If I was Brandon Beane, I would love to have him. I'm not trading for him in our situation currently as a Buffalo Bills franchise, but if he becomes a free agent, I don't see how you don't kick the tires on that idea. Josh Allen were to go down for 4 or 5 weeks, Andy Dalton would be that guy that I would trust to come in and make things happen. Come in and not taper off from being a playoff championship contender, maybe a playoff contender. I'll take that over some of the situations we see at quarterback within the National Football League. Tennessee Titans paid big money to Ryan Tannehill, so they're out. The Bears traded for Nick Foles, so the Bears are out. I thought the most logical fit was Dalton to Chicago, Dalton to Chi-Town, but they went out and they traded for Nick Foles. That Jaguars contract did not last long, and let Minshew Mania carry on in Jacksonville, Florida. But Andy Dalton should have a bigger market. He should have a market. Right now, he doesn't have one. And to me, it just doesn't make sense. I'm Ryan Thomas. It was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Where will Andy Dalton go? Ultimately, I do think New England should be the Chargers. I think that makes a lot of sense. But they are looking at starting Tyrod Taylor. Bless their hearts. Many Bills fans will refer to Tyrod Taylor as the guy that helped Buffalo end the drought. I remember things a little bit differently. I remember LaShawn McCoy in the last prime years of his career scampering his way through NFL defenses. I remember Steven Hauschka winning games with his right foot. Remember that Buffalo Bills defense led by Sean McDermott in year one being better than any of the last 2 coaches combined. So there you have it. Chargers, go out and get this guy. Patriots, I don't want you to, but I would suggest go out and get this guy if you want to remain relevant. There you have it. Take care, everybody. As well, go to Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Ryan Thomas Take. Follow me on Instagram at Ryan Thomas Take as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. And enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully I was able to entertain you for, let's say, 23 minutes. And keep your mind off of all things that are going on in the world right now. Thinking of everybody. I'll be putting out more content day to day. Don't you worry. We're putting it out.